Hey YouTube, this is going to be a comparison video or a shootout, whatever you want to call it. We have the JBL EON710 on the left, the Turbosound iP300 on the right. So starting off, the Turbosound has been out for a while. I believe it came out in 2018. The JBL is new, just came out this year. 2022. So let's see how technology has progressed in those couple of years. These speakers are more similar than different. They have a lot of similarities I'm going to go over. So starting off, the most important part for some people is the price. They're both the same price, $500. Turbosound was $399. It jumped up to $450. Now it's $500. So I don't know if prices are going to continue to rise, but price is not an issue between these two speakers. Okay, JBL 10-inch woofer, and the Turbosound does bass a little different. Two 6.5-inch woofers. And I'm going to say right now the bass is very, very similar. I wouldn't decide one over the other as far as bass. They're both good. Form factor, as you can see, they look different. The JBL it's a pretty big speaker. It's bigger in person than it looks probably from the video. The Turbosound looks like a mini column array, and they both, surprisingly enough, weigh the same exact amount, 26 pounds, which is very manageable. But I'm going to give it to the Turbosound because for two reasons. The first reason is I like the long look. It's just easier to fit into spaces, maybe into your car. But the number one reason that I'm going to say a plus on the Turbosound column is because it has a top handle and a side handle. And that really comes in handy. For some reason, the JBL 710 does not have that. If you go up, it doesn't have a side handle. If you go up to the 712, it does. So I figured JBL figured it wasn't heavy enough to put a side handle. But in reality, putting this speaker, 26-pound bulky speaker, up on a speaker stand at its maximum height is kind of a pain. You have to hoist it from the side and the bottom and push it up. Where the Turbosound has that side handle, it just makes it so much easier. Also, just carrying it from your car to the gig, the Turbosound with that side handle, I just kind of flip it around and lay it on my shoulder, and it's just really easy to carry. So it's definitely a plus in the Turbosound category. Treble, the Turbosound has a column array type of situation where it has four 2-inch drivers, and the JBL has your more traditional one tweeter. It's a 1-inch tweeter, but it's made of neodymium, which is the latest material that is used in the higher range speakers. I know RCF in their $3,000 top has neodymium drivers, so that might be a plus. As far as sound, they both are super clean. Super clean. I would have to say the Turbosound is a little cleaner, a little nicer high end, so that's another plus in the Turbosound column. But in the same vein, the mid-range on this JBL 710 is slightly smoother. So again, it's very hard to find one speaker with everything. So it really, you have to tailor to your sound signature, what you like. Both speakers definitely need, and I'm going to capitalize the word need, a subwoofer. These are not, even though the JBL looks like a large speaker, it's not like a 15-inch speaker where some people say they don't need a subwoofer. Both these speakers are lean on the low end, and they really come alive with any kind of subwoofer. It doesn't have to be an expensive subwoofer. It could be something like a Behringer B1200 for $350 and would transform either one of these speakers. But of course, it's not a necessity, especially it depends on the type of gigging you're doing. If you're an acoustic guitarist, vocalist, you don't need the subwoofer. A plus in the JBL column is because it's the latest model as far as year, 2022, just came out. Compared to the Turbosound that's been around since 2018. It has better Bluetooth. It has the Bluetooth 5.0, where the Turbosound has Bluetooth 4.1. They're both excellent, but again, the latest technology is in the JBL. As far as max volume, I really don't go by specs. The specs might say 125 dB on the JBL. It says 122 for the Turbosound, but in my testing, they come out exactly even as far as when they clip at max volume. Both clipped at about 101 dB. So again, I wouldn't go by the specs. Some of these companies are saying 1,000 watt amps. I go by max decibels, and these speakers are pretty much equal. A plus in the Turbosound column, and many people have said this on reviews, if you read the reviews on the internet, and that is because it has the column array setup, it really has a nice dispersion. It's able to throw 120 degrees. Some people say it's almost the equal of a Bose. Well, the Bose is 180 degrees, so it's not quite there. But it's really room-filling sound. It's not like a point source speaker where you can kind of put your finger on it and you can see where that one speaker is coming from. I'm thinking of something like a QSC speaker, a CP8. It has a much narrower dispersion. I think it's about a 90-degree dispersion. So this at 120 is quite a difference. On the other hand, the JBL has slightly less, 110 degrees, which is still good for this type of speaker, but it's not quite as good as the Turbosound. Turbosound one speaker will fill more a wider area, which is very important, and that's one of the big pluses that many people report about the Turbosound iP300. Talking about latest technology, both speakers have an app, which is great, but the JBL is head and shoulders above. The app is very detailed. It has a very good EQ section. The Turbosound has a basic 3-band EQ, bass, mids, treble, very basic. But the JBL really takes it up a couple of notches. It has an 8-band EQ, so you can really tailor the sound to the way you need it for your circumstances. So I really like the JBL EQ, really comes in handy. And one of the reasons why I really don't want to do too much sound testing here between the two is because I've already set the EQ on both for what I feel is their best, but I don't think it would be a real even playing field unless you put both on zero EQ, both flat, and I really don't want to do that because it took me a while to finally get them where I want. So I don't think it'll be really a fair test sound test because the EQs are different. Downside on the JBL is there is no reverb. Turbosound does have a very, very basic reverb, but it's better than nothing for a microphone. Gives a little difference, but JBL has nothing. I actually reached out to JBL and I said, well, why'd you do that? And they said that it's in this price range, they just couldn't justify putting reverb. So right there, some of you might say that's a deal breaker. If you're a vocalist, now you need a mixer. You can't just plug into one speaker without reverb. So that's going to be a deal breaker right there. I know many guitarists. As a drummer myself, I like to put a little reverb. So that's a big difference. Turbosound has reverb, JBL does not. Another plus in the JBL column, we're adding up here. The JBL can be laid on its side in the monitor position for band use. Turbosound cannot. So that could be a deciding factor. The JBL has more flexibility. Getting back to the app, I forgot to mention something very important, and that is, and this to me is a deal breaker for many also. For some odd reason, using Bluetooth on the Turbosound, when you come from the through out, you cannot, the external speaker, an auxiliary speaker, or a subwoofer, you will not get signal. Nothing comes out. The only way to use the through out is that you run a mixer first into the Turbosound and out into the auxiliary speaker. But I know many people, myself included, they don't want to run a mixer on a small speaker like this. They want to go light. So you can, that's a big downside on Turbosound. The aux out will not work with Bluetooth. But feather in its cap for JBL, no problem. It has a great throughout, 1/4 inch balanced out. You can plug in another speaker for fill in a larger area. I run a subwoofer from the throughout. And now a huge plus in my purchasing decision is from that app, which I'm going to say again is excellent on the JBL. You can control that auxiliary speaker. You can adjust the volume, the gain from a distance. You can do that also with other speakers, but the feather in the cap of the JBL is it has a mute on that aux channel, on that throughout channel, and many other speakers don't have that mute. So you might have seen this in other videos where I've demonstrated this. I'm not going to demonstrate it today, but it's a really good feature that I use a lot. So for example, on the JBL, I'm running a subwoofer from that throughout. I can mute the sub. I could bring that sub back on with a flick of a finger touch, and I could adjust the gain from a distance to see if the sub is too loud and how it's integrating with the main speaker, in this case the JBL. Same thing with an auxiliary speaker. Actually, I could, in this case, I could run the Turbosound from the JBL and I can blend them perfectly. Big plus for JBL. Here we go again, another big plus for JBL. They've recently, in all of their EON series, the EON PRX Mark II, and now the JBL 710, if you want to go to 712, a 12-inch, they have a 715, a 15-inch. All of that line has a 7-year warranty. Big selling feature. Before that, only Yamaha had a 7-year warranty. QSC has been known for their 6-year warranty. So JBL, a good move, definitely a selling feature. Turbosound, I haven't actually looked it up. I'm probably maybe 3 years, maybe 1, I'm not sure, but it's not 7 years. So any gigging musician out there, warranty is huge. I know I've used my warranty for different speakers. So again, another big selling feature for the JBL. So here we are on the back. I think I had mentioned that the JBL had a 1/4 inch throughout. They call it a pass-through. I was wrong. It's XLR out. I was thinking of the Mark II that has the 1/4 inch. So I prefer XLR out. XLR cables, everybody has them lying around, more common, and I prefer the tighter connection in case someone trips on it. So that's a selling feature for me on the JBL. Here is that handle on the Turbosound I mentioned. So we got a handle on the top and that side handle. Makes it really easy to throw around. Like I mentioned, I throw it over my shoulder and carry it that way. It's an easier carry, even though they both weigh exactly the same, 26 pounds. Here's something I didn't mention on the back. The Turbosound has your traditional rocker switch, which I like. It's very, with a click, you know if it's on and off. JBL uses, I guess they think it's more high tech. They use a soft press button. Some people have reported that in their case, they're carrying it to a gig and they accidentally press the power button, comes on. Since this isn't a battery speaker, it's not such a big issue, but you have to press it. It comes on instantly, but to turn it off, you have to hold it about 3 seconds, where the Turbosound, old school, you just flick it off and on. I prefer it. And that's about it. Here we got our screen on the back, small screen. Same thing with the Turbosound. Big negative for both speakers is there's no, you have to do some menu diving, but the JBL does have a little more control on the back. They both can control the gain, but you start having to go through menus to control the EQ and everything else. I like, in the old school, thinking of my CP8, which has controls on the back. It's easier, faster, especially in a gigging situation. So playing outside, you really need some volume. As you probably hear, we got some gardeners down the street with their blower. So you need headroom. both these speakers have it. They both are good power for the money. Again, these are mid-range speakers, $500. The next category up, you're going to get up to something like QSC K8.2, which is, I believe it's almost 900 now, but that's going to push it up to 128 dB. So that's another category speaker. I should have mentioned this in the very beginning of the video, and that is both of these speakers are AC only. So I'm sorry, some of you who are looking for a battery power speaker, you watched this video and now you realize that neither of these speakers is for you. But there is a good news, and that is both speakers are very easily run on an external power source. They don't pull a lot of power, and I've tested them. If you want the exact numbers, I can give them to you, but they cruise along at a normal gigging volume. They're only pulling like 70 or 80 watts. When you really crank it up and you're going toward your red line clipping, then they'll still be pulling a reasonable amount, but it'll be considerably more, maybe 90 or 100 watts. So what I've been using is on the far right there. It's called the Grant Maya. It's on Amazon. I'll give the link if you're interested. It's only $180, and it can run either one of these speakers for many hours. People always ask me how many hours will they run, and I always write, it really depends on what kind of music you're playing. If you play heavy bass, rap music, or dance music, it's going to drain the battery faster. If you're playing at max volume, close to 100 dB for these speakers, that will drain the battery quicker. So that Grant Maya is 300 watts, very reasonable, $180, and it will transform both these speakers into portable battery. So talk about portable battery, don't even ask me how these compare to a Bose S1 Pro, because it kind of makes me laugh. These are twice as good as an S1 Pro, but of course you have to carry that external battery source, and if you forget it, you're in trouble when you're playing a wedding gig at the beach. So a lot of people don't want to do this. They want internal battery, one thing less to carry or forget. But I'll say it again, both are an easy load, very easily run off of 300 watt power source that we see here. And you're never going to need anything near 300 watts. So if you think of half of that, 150 watts, that's about the maximum you're going to use. Either one will be easily run. I didn't mention, some people report that they really like the look of the Turbosound on a pole over a subwoofer. Kind of looks like a column array speaker, more modern, where the JBL over a subwoofer looks pretty old school at this point. Okay, I think we're ready for a summary. And then in this case, I am going to pick a winner. Most of my videos I don't pick winners because it's really a personal decision what a person needs, what kind of music they play, what kind of performance, how they're performing, what kind of space, many factors. But today I'm going to pick a personal winner. So let me sum it up. I'm going to go through each speaker, how it bests the other speaker. Let's start with the Turbosound iP300. So number one, it does have cleaner highs than the JBL. JBL is good, but the Turbosound is slightly better. I would take, if you're really looking for the cleanest highs, maybe acoustic guitarist, Turbosound might be your ticket, but again, very close. Number two, Turbosound. It does have reverb. If you're an acoustic guitarist, vocalist, you need that reverb. You don't need a mixer. Big plus. Three, it has a better dispersion, 120 degrees. People report that that one speaker fills up a huge space. Big plus. It's not 180 degrees. If you want that, you have to go to Bose. Four, I mentioned the top side handle. I'm sorry, the top handle and the side handle makes it easier to carry. I throw it over my shoulder. To me, that's a big plus. And the last one, my fifth best reason why I would pick Turbosound over JBL is I do like that traditional rocker switch. It's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker, but it's just one thing I can put in the Turbosound column. So that's 5 reasons, 5 issues that the Turbosound beats the JBL. Okay, going to the JBL, let's count it out. So my first plus or winning decision maker would be it does have smoother mids. it's more of a hi-fi sounding. Turbosound sounds like it's kind of missing something in the middle between those highs and lows. So mids is important to me. If you want mids, if you're really into more of a hi-fi sound, then I kind of go more toward the Bose sound. Number 2, Bluetooth. Bluetooth 5.0 is the latest. Personally, they both are good. I walked about 30 feet away in the park, and they both can do that. If you really need maximum distance, maybe the 5.0 might be a little further in distance. I haven't tested that, and I don't plan on testing that. Number 3, a big one for me, is the 8-band EQ compared to the 3-band EQ on the Turbosound. You really can dial in your sound much more high-tech, in my opinion, digital EQ. That's number 3. Number 4 is it has the XLR out, and again, a very big plus is on that app we just talked about. It has gain control with a mute. Turbosound really falls flat there. It can't even run without a mixer, any kind of aux speaker or a sub on Bluetooth. Number 5, JBL, 7-year warranty. Right there alone, many people are going to say, story's over. I'm a gigging musician, and those 4 extra years, that's huge. If anything happens, JBL will cover it. 7 years equaling the famous Yamaha 7-year warranty. Big plus. And number 6, another big plus. Again, depends on your situation, but if you're playing in a band, the JBL can be used in the monitor position. It's built for that. It has rubber feet on the side. The Turbosound is not made for that. So there you go. Pretty close. JBL 6 points, 6 reasons, and the Turbosound 5 reasons or pluses. And it really comes down to what you need. And then at the end of this video, I'll just tell you my winning speaker. I'm keeping both, obviously, but if I had to choose one, I do have one speaker that I would choose over the other. I just went back and did some listening tests, and I have to revise this review. The JBL definitely has noticeable better bass. It does thump more than the Turbosound, so that's another plus in the JBL column. It was noticeable. And on the other hand, I said before that the highs on the Turbosound were better, but I said it was slightly better. I'm going to revise that also. They are quite a bit better, quite a bit cleaner. When you mute the Turbosound, the JBL sounds more recessed or muffled. So think of, I used a track with trumpets on it. Trumpets are a very high-pitched instrument, very sharp, and the Turbosound definitely cut through. I was playing them at the same time. And by the way, they actually make very good pairing. I auxed out from the JBL into the Turbosound, and the Turbosound added that really bright high-end, clean high-end, and then the JBL, on the other hand, added that almost subwoofer-like bass. So they do make a really good pair. So for the people keeping track, once again, the JBL had 7 reasons that are better than the Turbosound. On the other hand, the Turbosound had 5 reasons. So again, going back to it, it's very personal which reasons are most important to you. So what's up with the cowboy hat? Well, I said this was a shootout, and for my personal reasons, for my usage, I would pick the JBL EON710 over the Turbosound. Both excellent speakers, but if I had to pick one, it would be the JBL. I'm gonna play some music, but it's gonna be in a part 2. This video is getting long. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this video can help some people make a decision if they're choosing between these 2 speakers. This is Bill.